Hi there, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Kyle. And this week, Trevor caught up on cinema. So what this podcast is basically is Trevor and I recommend movies to each other that the other one hasn't seen. For instance, this week I've seen The Ninth Gate before a few times, and this is the first time Trevor's seen it as an adult.
Yeah, technically I did see this movie when it was brand new, like when it came out on VHS, and my parents of all people sat me down to watch it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Depp was kind of sexy at the time, and, Mom has her needs, and she figured, the boy can stick around for this one. By the time we got to the end, I think she was regretting that.
Yep.
Truthfully, this is kind of like a first viewing, though, because I did not retain anything from the experience except for a couple of shots towards the very end of the movie.
And that's what counts. We're recommending a movie that the other one either has not seen or just does not remember a lick of. Like, for instance, I've seen Donnie Darko. I don't remember a single thing about that movie, so
Okay.
if I was to have to rewatch it now, it would be an episode. And we're trying to basically, what I'm having him watch The Ninth Gate for is, like, there are things I like about this movie, and I say that it's an enjoyable movie for me to watch still. And I just want to get his feedback, what his input is after he watched it. And we do this for each episode.
Yeah,
So.
basically we go back and forth having the other person watch movies, and in essence we're trying to help each other to catch up on cinema.
And we like to stay positive. We want to stay positive with these as best as possible.
Yeah, I don't think it takes much effort on either of our parts. Like, in my case, I have an analytical mindset when it comes to watching movies. So for me, as long as I get something out of it, as long as it's not an entirely empty experience, I can usually justify the time spent. Like, I usually don't hate movies, even if they aren't good.
And I tend to look at the movie just for the visual standpoint. I do look at the analytical stuff, but not as much as you do. Yeah. And I try to listen to the soundtrack.
To me, you're more of a lights, shots, and feel kind of guy, rather than like the minute details. I guess the minutia.
Yeah. So yes, this week I had Trevor watch The Ninth Gate from 2000, directed by Roman Polanski.
Who's not allowed back in this country.
Not allowed back in this country. I call him a cinepedophile because he's
quite accurate.
There is cinephiles, and then he's a cinepedophile. And yes, I don't know if he was actually ever.
I don't know the details.
Yeah, I don't know the details, but besides, we'll put that aside.
Long story short, there are scenes in this film that are supposed to be taking place in, air quotes, New York.
Yeah.
That were very clearly not shot in, air quotes, New York.
We talked about this. This might be the first movie to ever have a film in New York, but in an even nicer city. Like,
yeah, kind of.
Like, oh no, we filmed it in France, but it's supposed to be New York. Oh, okay.
It's like, so hang on, you spent more money to simulate New York?
Yeah, no kidding. It's like, I can't go back. I can't be in New York. They won't let me in New York. I actually kind of nicknamed this movie Johnny Depp smokes and looks for books, because that's essentially what this movie is. Johnny Depp is smoking cigarettes and looking for books.
Yeah, I mean, there's some booze in between, but yeah, in essence, it's just kind of Johnny Depp wandering around town, wandering around all of Europe, looking for books and smoking over said books, over multiple 100-year-old books.
Well, we'll get to the twins, but even the twins, he's smoking, and he's like, "It's a very rare book," and then the ash falls on, and he just kind of knocks it over. I'm like, "What the fuck? No! You need."
Yeah, I noticed that really early on, that like the way they talk about these books in such a reverent manner, and when they point out when these books were published, like from the 1500s and things of that nature, you would think that you would be handling these with rubber gloves in a vacuum. But yeah, everybody is smoking around these books. They give no fucks. At one point, though, they do. I think the script and the director were wise enough to understand that yes, this is a little bit of an anachronism. So I think the character Kessler, the woman in the wheelchair, she does actually call him out on his smoking.
Yeah, she does. She does, actually.
It's like the only time they call attention to it, and it was kind of funny, because throughout the entire movie we're doing this.
And I would, like you said earlier, like, I think she's probably the least obsessed out of the three of these collectors. Four, technically. Real quick, I was gonna say, you remember Red Dragon, where he goes into the library to see the the painting, the original artwork of the Red Dragon. And she's like, you have to make an appointment. You have to have somebody with you, take a look at it. I mean, what he does is...
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect them to, like... I would not be surprised if they said, like, okay, a week in advance, we want you to get some Head and Shoulders. It's like, you will scrub thoroughly 3 times a day.
We need you to be a professional serial killer. We need you to get all dead skin off of your body.
It's like you will have no oils, no dead skin, no dandruff.
Leave no trace.
Yeah, you will get an electrolysis appointment.
So the reason why I had Trevor watch this movie is because this is a movie that I've talked about fairly recently. That I'm like, you know what? I kind of like that Ninth Gate movie, but the soundtrack was terrible. And I actually rewatched it for this, and I liked it even more this time because I still enjoyed the movie, but the soundtrack wasn't as bad as I thought this time around. There are definitely parts where the music does not match the tone, which is an issue in this movie. But for the most part, I actually kind of like the music in this.
So that's neat that you picked up on that, because you're always pointing out that like you feel like you don't pay enough attention to that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool that you're starting to key in on that. But I mean, you have seen this movie many times. But God, I'm sorry, folks. I can't pronounce this guy's name. The composer. He has a very Polish name. It's like Wojciech Kilar.
I thought I wrote it down. I did not.
I know how it's spelled. It's like Wojciech, and then Kilar is his last name. I know him mostly as the composer of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, okay.
The Coppola movie.
Gotcha.
From
Coppola
earlier
did that?
Yeah.
I did not know. I was not aware of that.
But yeah, he has a very operatic composition style. I mean, these are the only 2 movies of his I know, and if you look at like his Wikipedia or his IMDb, it seems like he's mostly a European film composer rather than an American one. But his work on Bram Stoker was perfect. Like, it fit the tone, it fit the look perfectly. I mean, it's a gothic horror film. Choir is very much warranted. One of the only things I remember about my first viewing of The Ninth Gate, when I was like 12, was a scene at the end of the movie that involves some very intense choir music. And my memory was incorrect in assuming that choir was ever present throughout the movie. It's not. It's mostly just relegated to the climax of the film. A couple of choice scenes.
Interesting choice of words there.
Climax.
Can't believe as a 12-year-old boy the end scene is the one that...
Hard to believe that would be the one scene I'd retain in a movie that's mostly just Johnny Depp walking and smoking and reading books.
Crazy.
Yeah, imagine that. But the score for this film is very, very beautiful. Like, it's composed beautifully. It sounds like an opera or a classic symphony. My only issue with it is it's limited. There are 3 major melodies that play throughout the movie that are repeated ad nauseum throughout the entirety of it. And there are a lot of scenes that don't need music, that have music. Like you said, sometimes the tone doesn't quite fit. So it's all very pleasant to listen to, but it gets very repetitive. And it becomes noticeable when, again, all you're looking at is Johnny Depp flipping through books and smoking.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the plot a little bit. So, Johnny Depp is an unscrupulous character. I found that to be the best definition to describe him.
Yeah, he is without scruples.
Unscrupulous, but he is professional. I will give him that. He is very professional. He is I'm going to say a rare book appraiser, I would say.
Yeah.
He basically goes in and tells rich people, this collection of books you have are worth a lot of money. This is how much they're worth. And he is hired by Boris Balkan, played by Frank Langella, or Frank Langella.
I've always said Langella, but...
I think it's Langella. I'm not really sure. Big dude. He's hired by him, who is, I'm assuming, billionaire, or at least multimillionaire.
He owns a very large building in downtown New York.
Air quotes.
Yeah, New York, air quotes.
And he has an extensive collection on books about the devil. It's, as he says, it's the most extensive collection in the world. He has the largest collection of books about the devil, and he has one in particular that was written by, I can't remember who it was supposed to. It's a fictional book. It's not real. He has a copy of it, and there apparently are only 3 copies in the world, and he wants Johnny Depp to take his copy and compare it to the other 2 copies of this book to verify its authenticity. And from there, it gets a little I don't know. It's hard to describe because there's not really much that really happens in this movie, other than like, oh wow, like you said, it takes Johnny Depp a movie to figure out what you could figure out in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, to me that was the weakest link in the whole production, but we'll get to that. But yeah, the plot is kind of like it's very noir in the way it's constructed. There's even like a femme fatale type character, 2 of them in fact.
I'm gonna call her succubus.
Sure, yeah.
That's more.
There's one with superpowers, and then there's one that has a superpower known as money. She has Batman powers, and she's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it feels like a noir picture, but the caper, the whole thing that we're trying to track down, the whole mystery is centered around these books rather than like finding a person or stopping a killer or something along those lines, something more conventional.
Well, you say noir, and it's interesting because he did Chinatown, which is an LA noir. Like, was that neo-noir? I would say.
Yeah, I think both movies probably fall under that category.
And Chinatown definitely more follows that thread, and I like that. I like that movie. I like this one a little bit better, and he's just basically a book detective.
That's to me that's what I read it as. Is he's a book detective. He's trying to not only locate these books, but there's some sort of mystery that, to begin with, he doesn't even know what he's looking for, really.
This is the second devil movie that Roman Polanski has done.
Yeah, Rosemary's Baby. That's the big one.
It's just, yeah. We don't need to dive into Polanski at all. So we start out Johnny Depp, and we learn kind of how his character is.
Yeah, go over his introduction.
So he is actually we meet him talking to a very wealthy family about their book collection, and it appears though it's the children of a very rich man, and the rich man has had, I'm assuming, a stroke. He's lost the inability to speak, and he can't really move either.
He's just sitting in a wheelchair peering out the window.
And he's talking to the 2 kids, not children, but they're adults, and he's basically telling them, like, this collection that you have is worth quite a bit of money, maybe 5 or 6 figures even, high 5, low 6. And he's like, I can definitely find you a buyer. He's like, but I actually, I like this smaller collection that you have. And I'm willing to take it off your hands. It's not going to be too pricey, but I've got cash right now. I'll go ahead and buy it. And he lowballs them extremely because the father in the wheelchairs, who's had a stroke, is just seething. Yeah. And he's just like wanting to scream because Johnny Depp is ripping them off.
Yeah, you can tell that he's physically incapable of expressing the frustration that he's feeling. But, the thing about that scene is that it teaches us what it is he does, but it also teaches us, like you said, that he is not afraid to be a little underhanded and sleazy.
Yeah.
I think his actual job is an appraiser. Yeah. But on the down low, he does like brokering or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, the book collection he picks up is like a 4-volume Don Quixote.
That's the name, yes.
Which I watched this on Amazon Prime, and it has like the trivia bar that pops up on the top left of the screen, and it said something about like this particular edition of the books is worth an astronomical amount of money. And yeah, the old man's expression kind of sells the entire thing. Where it's like motherfuckers. Funny little note about that scene though is so the scene preceding that, I think the very first scene in the movie is a suicide sequence.
Yes, actually, the first some rich dude in a study.
And that's how you can tell he's a rich dude if he has a study.
So it's a nameless dude, and I've always wanted to have enough money to have a study, but this is not the kind of study I'd want. It's very well lit and very bright. I've always thought of studies as being very dark with like really dark leather furniture and just like one little lamp and fireplace. But yeah, so he pins a little suicide note there, it looks like, and then hangs himself.
Yeah, was that Mr. Tefler?
Yes, that was Mr. Tefler. And he, right before his suicide, sold his book to Boris Balkan, Frank Langella.
So the catalyst for the story is basically Mr. Balkan coming into possession of this book.
Yes.
Of which there are only 3 in the world. That scene when Mr. Teflon is doing his suicide via hanging, it's very well shot.
Very well shot.
There's like a one-shot sequence where you see this old man like penning his suicide note in his study, and then the camera just like very casually and cleanly pans over to like a footstool with like a rope hanging above it, and then it pans back to him, and it's just like, oh, okay, I get what's happening. And then, yeah, sure enough, he goes about it, and instead of, like, seeing, like, all the grim details of it, we get some shots of, like, a light fixture getting yanked out of the ceiling and him, like, kicking a bit. Man, your movies have a lot of hangings.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, he was finishing up his tomatoes Campbell's soup out of the can, and he's ready to come back inside with you guys. I'm ready to come back.
I'm ready to come back inside.
I'm ready to come back inside.
I'm all right. I'm totally not a thing.
That's one of my favorite parts in that movie.
It's like, oh, Wilford Brimley, you're so silly.
Check out the Thing episode if you get a chance.
Well, even The Mummy, like, your movies have a lot of hangings, Kyle.
Yeah, man, it just pops up, you know.
But coming to the next scene though, Johnny Depp's introductory scene, I just wanted to throw out there that it's like the second scene in the movie, and I picked up on a really bad ADR in that sequence. That you don't want that early in your movie because it kind of sets the tone. Thankfully, I didn't notice that throughout the movie, but there's just this weird part where he's looking at the old man up and down, the old man in the wheelchair. And then his lips don't move at all as he's like walking back towards the kids in the room, and he says some offhand like little joke that clearly was dubbed over it, but like nothing on his face moves, so it's really obvious.
So he has to make a joke about a stroke victim. They had the ADR of joke about a stroke victim. Wow.
Yeah, they called him back to the studio so he could make a joke about a stroke victim.
Nice. Nice.
Roman Polanski was like in the editing booth. He was like, "Fuck, we missed our chance on the set.
Our chance. Listen,
it's absolutely essential to the film."
Listen, I am a terrible person, okay? And we missed a perfect opportunity for a stroke joke, and we have to go back.
Johnny, I need you to come back.
Can you drive over here because you're European now?
He's like, Johnny, I know I can't come to New York, but maybe you could come here.
It's not a risk I'm willing to take. I don't know what that accent is, but I
don't know what he sounds like.
I don't know what he sounds like.
The only time I've ever actually seen him,
he's in Chinatown. He does a little scene in Chinatown.
See, I haven't seen Chinatown, but you know what I have seen that he's in? Rush Hour 3.
He's in Rush Hour. First of all, there's a Rush Hour 3. I didn't even know there was a Rush Hour 3.
It's not good at all.
They let him back in the United States for Rush Hour 3?
No, it takes place in Paris.
Oh, okay.
And he is like a customs officer or something.
Man.
And he's just there. And it's like, what?
Seriously, directors must really appreciate him. Like, fuck all that shit, man. America, you don't want him to be in America anymore? Fine, we'll go over there and put him in our movie.
He was good enough to be in Brett Ratner's movie.
Jesus.
Yeah, Jackie Chan's doing the, like, I call it, like, face acting, where it's where basically you're saying the lines, but your face isn't.
Oh.
So, like, he's just like, Carter!
Like,
I don't want any trouble.
Like, what's her face? Olivia Munn in The Predator.
Well, pretty much every performance.
Yes. Again, she's funny in Slam and Salmon. I'll give her that. So, yeah. Johnny Depp is summoned by Frank Langella.
He meets him at a talk.
Yes, he's doing a talk, which puts him to sleep. But Johnny Depp was drinking a little bit that day, and probably the night before. He's a little bit of a boozer. He's not getting shithoused, but he's drinking a little bit every day. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you can definitely tell like he's drinking quite a bit throughout the movie. The few things that bothered me in this movie, one of them is Frank Langella's code is 666. I'm like, really? Do we really need to see that?
We even get to see it twice.
We see it twice.
And it's a little too on the nose.
I'm like, okay, we get what you're doing.
The camera like keys in on it too. Yeah. It's not like an Easter egg. Like we're meant to see that.
We're supposed to see his code is 666.
And then he shows off his 13 Ghosts vault of books.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking too. Is the 13 Ghosts. That's such a weird thing in that movie. It's like it's just a glass.
Well, I mean that was some cool production design.
I remember liking that.
That was a cool set.
Much better than Ghost Ship. Because they were like
when it comes to early 2000s horror, violent horror. Yeah, I think 13 Ghosts takes the cake.
Ghost Ship, I don't know, for some...
House on Haunted Hill is pretty good, too.
I liked that, too. I thought that was... I almost rewatched that. Actually, I wanted to watch the Vincent Price House on Haunted Hill.
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price.
I would like some Fruit Loops.
Yes. I wanted to watch that and then watch the remake, just to get an idea. Love his glasses in this movie, Frank Langella. I like his glasses.
Oh, yeah. No, his whole ensemble, like his whole outfit from head to toe it projects a certain image that like belies the intensity that is deep down.
And we talked about this. We both really like him in this movie.
Oh, he's great.
He's so great.
He steals the whole movie.
He is terrifying as like he's like 6'4" and he's big. Like he's built like a fucking linebacker. Like he's a big dude.
He's thick.
Yeah.
He's big and wide.
He could have played football. I'm gonna argue like
I wouldn't doubt it.
He probably did. Well, I don't know where he went to college, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, there's just something about his voice that is terrifying.
In particular, I mean, he's a very good actor in general, but this character, he was channeling something that really worked, where he plays both ends of it very, very well, where he's like this super rich, erudite, like billionaire, like I forget what he's in business for, but whatever it is he does requires him to have a public face, and he very clearly has a mask he puts on to deal with the public, but deep down, he's a
sociopath.
He's a fucking batshit crazy devil worshiper,
Yeah.
and he's like super serious about it.
Super serious about it. So yes, he shows Johnny Depp his extensive collection in the 13 Ghost Cage.
Yeah.
And then he wants him, like we said earlier, he wants him to go compare his books to the other two to check its authenticity. This awesome book about the devil, rumored to have been written in part by the devil, which is why Frank Langella is so... It's his most prized possession. It's the most important thing in the world, which is weird for the writing in this movie. Why wouldn't he make photocopies? Because he does make photocopies at one point. Why didn't he just make photocopies of certain things and go compare it? I don't know. Like, why would he trust his most prized possession with somebody who is, I mean, a book appraiser, basically? Why would he trust him to go across the pond and go look for everything?
Yeah, it is kind of a weird thing, because Johnny Depp is actually pretty transparent when it comes to telling people what he's doing and who he's doing it for. I would understand if it was because he was on very poor terms with the other owners of the books. Because it's understood that all these people know each other, at least by reputation.
Yeah, they do know each other.
But yeah, all these people they're smart enough to know that if we're talking about, multi-million-dollar books, I'm going to ask why you're here and who you're working for.
Yeah.
And there's only so many ways you can skirt around that. So Johnny Depp, in most instances, ends up just telling people, "I work for Boris Balkan."
Because there's only so many people. Well, they think it's they know Tefler was the one that had the book, and he's like, "Well, it's not Tefler. He hung himself." And they're like, "Oh, it must be Balkan then."
And I mean, again, these people are not
dumb.
They're not stupid. If one of them died and mysteriously gave the book to one of these guys right before,
yeah,
it's gonna get your bullshit detector running.
Yeah. So yes, we get back to Johnny Depp's. Oh, he goes to visit Tefler, the Tefler widow Tefler, to ask her about the book. He's just kind of asking, like, how did he acquire it? Because the guy hung himself, so he had some questions. He's like, how do you acquire it? She's like, it's weird that he gave it to you, or he sold it because it was his most prized. It was his most prized book. We come to find out that she does not want to part with the book, actually.
Yeah, she wants to buy it back.
We get back to... there's not really much going on in the scene. It's just a little chit-chat.
She's playing it very coy. There's obviously something going on her end of things, but she's not ready to talk about it just yet. The only thing that becomes clear is that she wants the book back.
Yes. She goes to his apartment later in the evening. Product placement, Whirlpool. Sorry, I'm gonna point out some of the product placement in this. It's nowhere near like Transformers product placement, but
nothing is.
But no, there's just a few that I picked up on. Yes, Whirlpool product placement. She comes by. They have a go. They hook up. She tries to take the book back away from him. Sorry, we didn't meet his friend.
Yeah,
rare book guy.
Johnny Depp has a a friend who's in the rare book business, in his very clearly Parisian place of business.
Nos and Queens, bro.
Yeah, yeah, obviously. This buddy of his is a book dealer, so it seems that whenever Johnny Depp makes these sleazy, underhanded book sales, in this case, the Don Quixote collection, this is the guy he uses to get it sold. And he and this guy have this funny relationship where it's like you can tell they're friends, but at the same time, the guy is like trying to get him to dial back his habit. He's like, "Hey Johnny, like this is really good for both of us, but you know this is probably going to bite you in the ass at some point, and I don't exactly like selling dirty books."
Yeah. But also there's a lot of money in this, so I'm going to do it this one time.
And they also both have a lot of curiosity too. So it's like they know it's wrong on some level, but at the same time they're not about to stop doing what they're doing. So he's the more cautious personality of the two, but he's still involved. And he's still doing it.
He's the wolf of book appraisal.
Yeah, actually. But in between all this, we get a very short tour of Johnny Depp's apartment,
which is a shithole.
And I actually thought it was well constructed from a production design standpoint, because we see him eating like a hungry man or something.
He just throws it in,
like box and all. Like he hasn't even opened the box.
So I think that just from like the bougie standpoint, I had a friend explain it to me when I found out how they had to post about how people who died, famous people, what was the last thing they ate.
Oh.
Like, there was like a Confederate general who had like molasses cooked buffalo or something like that, and potatoes, or
way to go.
Rasputin had like some kind of bread and some coffee or tea or something, and then like John Belushi, he died and he had lentil soup, and he was such a huge guy. You're like, that was his last meal?
Yeah. What?
And I mentioned it to a buddy of mine. He's like, yeah, I mean, he was a boozer, and the last thing you want to do if you're a full-blown alcoholic is to put a lot of food in your stomach.
Huh.
You want to keep it. You want to just keep the booze in there. You don't really want to eat too much. And in this case, you see Johnny Depp, he's just like, food is an afterthought. So he's just, I don't really give a shit. So I read that as he drinks more often than not. And you can tell in the movie that he's drinking quite a bit. And he does get drunk a few times, but he's not getting smashed every night. Yeah. But he does keep quite a bit of alcohol in the system throughout the week.
His gut space is reserved for booze?
Yeah, that's what I took it as.
Well, booze like, and cigarettes.
So, that too,
his appetite's probably not... Yeah. His metabolism's probably non-existent.
He's on a real Hemingway diet right now.
But the other thing I noticed about that scene, other than just the humor of him opening his freezer and just throwing this box in his microwave.
He's not eating that.
I think he pours himself a drink right after that, and then he sits down at his beige CRT monitor on his desk, and in the background, though, we see piles and piles of books like crammed into a shelf, not beautifully organized, but just like smashed in there. And it kind of seems to be a theme with a lot of the major characters in this story, where these characters have unusual priorities.
Yes.
Where it's like, obviously sustaining his physical self isn't terribly important, because he eats crap, he smokes, he drinks, but his tiny apartment is crammed with books.
I was actually curious about that, and I was wondering if it was like he has maybe his own collection of books, or he just they never show him reading. Which
no.
I think the only person who reads in this, like for real, is the Baroness Kessler. I think maybe she's seen reading at one point, but none of these people that collect books, they don't mention anything about reading them. And Langella, even when he's talking about his devil collection at the 13 Ghosts cage, he's just like, it's the most extensive collection in the world, and just not even to mention the centuries of knowledge that's in there. And I'm like, well, have you read them? Like,
of course.
Like, it would have been cool if he gave like an example. He's like, knowledge. Like, did you know that in 12th century Scotland that they would do this shit? Or,
well,
like,
if you wanted to make him really creepy, you have him reference like almost like Bible scripture, or like reference a specific paragraph on a specific page of a specific book.
That would have been creepy.
It's like,
oh damn, this guy's no joke. Like,
it's like, you spend a lot of time in the 13 Ghost cage.
And it's just like, yeah, they just collect these books, and maybe they just read the hot spots. Like,
they read the Cliff's Notes of the devil.
They're just like, oh, that's a cool passage. That's a cool passage. Put this away. I'm gonna go buy another one. Yeah, his apartment is a shithole. It's just not very nice. And I'm also wondering if he is a reader and he just has them all piled back there, and maybe he has a crappy apartment and he's just like tucking back money. Like maybe he's saving for something. I don't know.
Yeah, he could be doing like a punch drunk love kind of thing. It's the rainy day fund.
Like he's got $1 million in the bank just sitting there. I'm assuming he's got quite a bit of money if he's flipping books like this.
That's the thing is like he has a lot of money, but what's he doing with it? It seems like he's just sitting on it.
Yeah, he never mentions anything like that, but that's what I'm gathering.
He's planning a trip to Fiji. A lifetime trip to Fiji.
What is that? Punch Drunk Love?
No, that's Truman Show.
Truman Show, that's what it was. So yeah, interesting thing. Kind of Sixth Sense-ish. The use of red. Did you notice the use of red in this movie?
I don't think I did.
I didn't mean to pick up on it. But there's a few. A few notes. He has all socks all of his socks are red when he's packing.
Really?
He has all red socks.
Wow, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, really dark red, almost maroon, but like very, very red socks. It's very subtle, and I think that was on purpose. Like we're not gonna have him put bright red socks on, like Nathan Lane in Birdcage, where he puts on the big socks. One must have some color. Yeah, the use of red there, and I think the car that they steal is red. He's like, "Oh, that's not too conspicuous, huh?" There's a few other. I think there's a couple other things. Oh, he's always drinking Johnny Walker Red Label product placement.
See, I wouldn't have noticed that.
Lucky Strikes. He's smoking Lucky Strikes, and this is interesting. Lucky Strikes are, I think, only have no filters. If you buy them in the store, they're filterless cigarettes, and you do see him smoking filterless cigarettes, and. There's at one point he has Lucky Strikes that have filters on them, which I was very interested in when I watched it. I'm like, where can you get Lucky Strikes with filters on them? Because I'm a former smoker, and I was like, I kind of want to try, because I've had Lucky Strikes before without the filter, and I'm not smoking that shit now. Like that's too strong. I'm like, but with the filter, like I kind of want to try that. Give them a whirl. But yeah, I just thought it was weird that Lucky Strikes were front and center in this movie.
Maybe it's a thing in Europe.
Maybe.
I mean, that's obviously where most, like, this entire film was made, so...
Oh, on location as fuck.
Yeah.
And this is also the late 90s, early 2000s when smoking was still cool in movies.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of miss that.
Oh, yeah. 90s were very big time for smoking, especially because the anti-drug campaigns were in full swing, and if you want a kid to do something, you tell him not to.
if you haven't seen, I'm going to talk about the cigarettes real quick. Just get it over with.
No, you've had this bottled up for quite a while.
If you've ever seen Thank You for Smoking, I don't know if you have.
I have not.
It's really good. Aaron Eckhart plays the spokesperson for Big Tobacco, and it seems like I think early 90s, although it looks like it's the 2000s easily. Mm-hmm. But he's watching a movie, and it's an old, like, black and white war movie, and the guy's like, you know what I use right now is a cigarette. And he's a smoker, and he's just sitting there with his kid, and his kid's asleep, and he just goes for his cigarette pack, and he stops, and he's like, holy shit, this is a way we can market cigarettes. It's like, I didn't even want a cigarette, but I heard him say cigarette, and I wanted a cigarette. So that, I mean, you could definitely make an argument that is effective. I would say from personal experience, yes, it is. But like this movie especially, I wanted a cigarette so bad.
Well, the ubiquity of cigarettes in this movie, like there's quite a bit of smoking. And virtually every scene in which someone is flipping through a book, which is the majority of the movie, involves someone lighting a cigarette.
There's like we talked about in Undisputed too. Like we're seeing the two fighters at the very beginning, and they are jacked.
Yeah. One
of the reasons why they look so jacked, I mean they are, but is the overhead lighting, and that is very, very useful for cigarette smoking as well.
Oh, really?
So if you an instance of bad lighting for smoking is Die Hard. Watch Bruce Willis smoke in Die Hard. It's not cool because you can barely see him exhaling. You can't see the smoke. You can't see it coming out of the cigarette really. Mm-hmm. It's just not done very well. This movie, on the other hand, it makes smoking look phenomenal. Like you're just seeing the shots.
One of the ugliest instances I can think of smoking portrayed in cinema was Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2.
Oh,
there's a shot where her cigarette, she has not touched it.
Yeah,
it's just been in her fingers for like a half hour or something. Like it's just lingering there. Like even the ash is still hanging off of it.
Well, I don't think he was trying to glamorize smoking in that shot.
Well, and he definitely wasn't trying to glamorize her either.
Well, think about this. This is Lucky Strike. Nothing is in a movie for no reason. Lucky Strike is in here, all over the place. So it makes sense that a director would make smoking look really good if you're trying to sell Lucky Strikes from this movie, basically. But I think it's done really well. And another thing that bothers me about smokers in movies is people who don't smoke in real life. Oh. And as a smoker, you can pretty much pick up on who's a smoker in real life and who's not. Dane Cook in My Best Friend's Wedding, he's smoking throughout the movie. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. It's like somebody who's never smoked before smoking. Johnny Depp, I mean, is a well-known smoker. It comes naturally. He's got his own style. He exhales through the nose. He makes it look so cool.
Well, he's got a thing about his hands.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of actors that are have very talented hands. Funny enough, Chris Pratt. Like, I don't know, I haven't seen that many of his movies, but I have noticed, like, at least in the Jurassic World movies, he has very educated hands.
Really? I did not notice that.
Like, just pay attention to what he does from, like, the forehands down.
He's just got sexy hands.
Like, from the, like, forearms down. Like, he like, the way he positions his hands and the way he gestures is very impactful and very effective. It's a weird thing to notice, but Johnny Depp's always had a thing about his hands. Like, he has, like, I think tattoos and rings all over the place. Like,
From Hell is a Johnny Depp smoking movie as well. I think it's probably the more sexy of the Johnny Depp smoking movies.
There's an entire subgenre of film called Johnny Depp smoking.
Seriously, I might have to move.
There are 50 movies in this subgenre.
I'm gonna have to put a list together of Johnny Depp smoking movies.
The best of Johnny Depp smoking on film.
Seriously. So yeah, this is just as a smoker. If you're a former smoker, this is gonna be torture because they make it look real good. I have a cigarette sitting in my room.
I've never smoked at all, but it did look kind of cool.
Right?
Like, I'm not gonna lie.
It works.
I mean, shit. It's like all the times I've been reading books. It's like, fuck, I could have been smoking while I was doing that.
I'm saying, say what you will about Roman Polanski. He did a lot for Big Tobacco in this movie. He did a lot.
A true American hero.
Oh, gosh. Also, Johnny Walker product placement throughout this. A lot of it.
I wonder if that was like Johnny Depp's doing.
But yeah, so let's move along with the plot here.
Yeah, you want to talk about the scuffle with the Lady Tefler?
Yeah, I mean, he hooks up with her, and the book is not.
She comes at him.
She comes at him like a spider monkey.
She's quite aggressive.
I mean, it's quick. I mean, we're talking like 2 minutes, and they're at it. Like,
she does the whole thing where she pulls up the one end of her skirt, and he's like,
"Oh,
I see what you did there."
That was an interesting scene because Johnny Depp is a notoriously handsome dude, and he's still Johnny Depp is in the movie. He's still a good-looking guy. And he's a little flustered.
I'm telling you, I have this theory about Johnny Depp, and I think he's not happy with himself as a person.
Okay.
Because he has he has an affinity for like characters that are unscrupulous and weaselly and not like the traditional hero. Mm-hmm. Like you'll never see him doing like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type role or a Chuck Norris or a Steven Seagal kind of role where it's like he has all the answers. He knows everything. He can handle himself. Usually he just gets by. And usually in underhanded ways. And usually he's not a good person.
Spoiler, he's a bad guy. He's one of the bad guys in Murder on the Orient Express. Actually, he's the main bad guy.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Which is a really good movie.
Like I said, he seems to have a thing with hiding himself in his roles. So he always has lots of ornamentation, crazy makeup. And he does seem to gravitate towards roles where he is disliked by other people and regarded in a negative light.
It's interesting you say like accessories, like he always has stuff all over him. That's actually a joke that a comedian I like has made. He's like, "Are you going to put on more scarves or some shit like that?" Like, he does.
Well, I think of it almost as like a kind of dysmorphia, where it's like, imagine you're Johnny Depp and you're the like one of the most handsome people in the world at the moment. You're getting all these amazing roles tossed at you. But you don't like yourself.
Yeah.
How do you get over that? You hide. You play Edward Scissorhands instead of the Lothario.
Well, he's from Owensboro, Kentucky, and I'm actually from southern Indiana, which is about 45 minutes away from where he grew up. And it's a shithole. Like, Owensboro, I'm sorry if you're listening from Owensboro, Kentucky, but you know that it's not a great place to live. It's not a good place to live. Just that region in general. And I've heard that he he was a little bit of a rebel. I think he might have had some issues,
He had
some
like,
home life issues.
I think drug and alcohol, and he was in a band. I know that.
Yeah.
He had a leather jacket.
Yeah.
No, I know he was in a band for sure.
Yeah.
That's how he got the Nightmare on Elm Street gig.
Never mind. I was going to talk about the Pogues for a second, the lead singer of the Pogues, but he made a joke at Johnny Depp's expense. It was pretty funny. But yeah, so he hooks up with the Tefler widow, and then she's looking for the book frantically, and it's not there. He gave it to his friend to hold on to because he's like, this is a little fishy. I'm already not real comfortable with this, but I'm gonna have you hold on to it for now. And maybe he wants to look at it. He's like, mind if I look at it for a little bit or something? She looks for it. He doesn't have it. They get into a scuffle. And
Very awkward scuffle.
And then he gets knocked the fuck out.
First of many instances.
Yes. He might need to see a doctor.
Yeah, he's multiple concussion victim by the end of this movie.
Yeah. He's not doing well. He wakes up the next morning and he goes to the bookstore to get the book. He has to go to Europe. The Europes. He goes to the bookstore and he's a little nervous because he's been knocked out, and he's like, well, he tries calling his friend, he's not answering, like trying to give him a heads up, like, hey, I just got knocked out, some weird shit's going on. He goes there and his friend is dead and he is hanging upside down by a leg, which is one of the illustrations done in the book, and it might be by LCF. It might be one of the drawings that was supposed to be written by the devil.
I think so.
He goes in there. He doesn't call the cops or anything like that. He goes in and just goes up the spiral staircase, and he knows where he hides his stuff. And this is a cool shot because he takes the book, and there's also, did you notice there's a huge stack of cash in there?
Yeah.
Doesn't touch it.
Yep.
And I thought that was interesting. So while he's unscrupulous, he's not a complete piece of shit, I guess. Because he's like, well, I don't want to call the authorities. I need to get this book and stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and just take the book. And I'm not going to take the money. Which I was like, okay, I guess he has a little bit of morals.
Well, he's a fucking book dealer.
Yeah.
he's not like a criminal mastermind.
No. Yes, and now he calls Boris Balkan. He's like, dude, I don't want to do this shit. And he's like, that's unacceptable. You're going to do this. And he's like, no, I'm not. He's like, add another zero to your check. And he's like, okay, I'm doing this.
Okay, away we go.
So he gets off to the Europes. Now does he get on the train first? He's taking the train to France, or has he already gotten to his hotel and got...
I think he gets to the hotel first.
He gets to the hotel, and then he takes the train, and he notices there's a young woman. Well, her name is the girl. She has green eyes, gorgeous French actress. Sorry, I big time crush.
I didn't catch her name either.
No, her name is the girl, but I forgot. I don't remember her name. He noticed her at the little seminar that we talked about that Boris Balkan was doing, and he fell asleep. Now she's on this train.
Seminar about witches, by the way.
Seminar about witches. She's also in the lobby at the hotel.
Yeah.
I think he's like, oh, and then he has quite a few drinks in the bar car of the train, and he goes up to her because he sees her. He's like, hey, are you following me? She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, all right, well, send Balkan my regards. She's like, what are you talking about? He's like, whatever, man.
Yeah, during this scene, we get first instance of some supernatural phenomenon in the movie.
Yeah, what was it?
Her eyes change.
Oh, yes.
She isn't telling him her name, and she asks him, like, you call me whatever you want. And
call me whatever you want.
And he says, okay, green eyes. And then we get this awkward shot where her eyes change from, like, kind of a pale gray green to, like, an intense emerald green.
Yeah.
Briefly. And then he just kind of doesn't react, and then he leaves. And the whole time I'm watching that scene, I'm like,
she's a demon.
Yeah, I was like, you might want to take notice of that, bud. Like, it's a little weird.
I think it might be what he's seeing is different from what we're seeing. I think that he is mesmerized by her eyes, like they're very, very green, and we're seeing them like pulsate or like just kind of blink a little. Like, what's the word I'm trying to use? Like they're high beams and low beams. I think what he's seeing is he's just kind of mesmerized by her eyes, and they're just one solid, very bright, capturing green. What we're seeing is like this person is a problem.
Well, yeah, no, it's very obvious that they change color as we're looking at her. Like it isn't just we cut and then they're just green like that. The transition happens plain as day in front of us. But Which brings us to like a problem with Johnny Depp's acting in this movie. I had a lot of problems with it because he is non-reactive to virtually everything in this movie. He's almost like sleepwalking through it.
He's like I said, he is seen in almost every scene. He is drinking and smoking. Seriously, like
I mean, that is a justification.
I mean,
that's a valid justification.
He's either sleepy because he's not getting sleep from drinking too much, or he's got a buzz on and is not really affected by it. So, I think that it could be yes, he's just phoning it in, where he's like, yeah, I'm going to do this Roman Polanski movie. But I feel like if he's doing a Roman Polanski movie, he's going to be more engaged. So I'm going to argue that I think his character is just supposed to be boozy, and I think that might be the character's interaction with people.
I guess, like, my issue with it was that, like, we were talking about this the other day, came the character John Constantine, like from DC Comics and from the Keanu Reeves movie or the TV show or whatever. That's a character who, the basis of his character is that he is comfortable with the occult and demons.
Very much.
Because he lives in that world. It's not unusual for him. So he's able to come at these horrible, twisted things in this other world realm, like from the standpoint of a person with calluses, a person who is comfortable with this. Johnny Depp's character, however, is a book appraiser.
Yeah.
When people start dying and horrible shit starts happening that he can't wrap his head around, to me, he should have a knee-jerk response of being like, flip the fuck out. And he has some intense phone calls with Frank Langella, but it never gets to the point that it's like, I believe it. Like, and even his investment in the mystery, like towards the end of the movie, I think he even uses the phrase like, "I need to know."
I need to know.
Yeah, but it comes out in that tone, where it's like, "I need to know," and it's like,
I agree with that. I'll give you that.
It's like,
much.
Okay, where's the energy? Like, where you're supposed to show me that. I think the script is trying to tell us, like the script, not the performances. The script is trying to tell us that throughout his journey, he's coming into the same mindset as the other people who are obsessed with these books. And all of these people they turn in very great performances, and they all display their obsessions in different ways. But his character just kind of seems to be along for the ride, and he keeps doing things that are utilitarian to the plot. Like, it's required that he follows Frank Langella.
Yeah, because the money. Yeah, he has to.
But you never feel that his character is like emotionally engaged to the point that he probably should be.
I might be able to make the argument that he's better at playing not over the top characters, but I think about some of his good performances, like in Sleepy Hollow. He has a very high energy performance. Captain Jack Sparrow, those are fun. I don't know of any like real serious roles besides What's Eating Gilbert Grape. What's Eating Gilbert Grape, I would say the same thing. Like, he's kind of just like unaffected by everything that's happening.
Well, think
around
of
him.
his living situation though.
Yeah,
that's his reality.
That's his
reality.
reality.
He lives in that from day to day. Whereas the Ninth Gate, he's coming into this world.
What's that black and white one that is it Dead Man?
I think yeah.
I need to watch that. It doesn't have great reviews, but I need to watch it because
it's the Jarmusch movie. I think
it looks good from my end. But he
recently got a Blu-ray release.
But I think that at this point he's better at playing more charismatic characters, and I don't think he really plays a more serious role that I enjoyed until he did Black Mass, which is awesome.
Well, even Sleepy Hollow though, his character, the whole thesis of him is that he's a man of science.
He's a man of science
who's grappling with supernatural, and so he comes at it from his foundation of scientific background.
I'm saying his more memorable performances are when he's just a little more.
Yeah, but he's not doing that in this movie.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he really gets it. I don't think he really gets it until Black Mass, much later in his career. And this is very, very early in his career of being like the shit. Like, he's awesome.
Well,
at this
was when he was hitting like kind of a dry period, as far as I remember. Like Secret Window was around this time too, and that was kind of a flat performance too.
That movie was terrible. What was before? What was before this? Because Edward Scissorhands was early 90s.
That was quite a while before this. I can't quite remember, but I do remember like late 90s, early 2000s. He was a little flat.
I think he was just taking like early McConaughey roles where it's just like he's just fuckable. Like that Don Juan DeMarco, that movie is just him being fuckable. That's all that movie is. Maybe he was just still in the middle of that.
Yeah, I mean,
Blow. I think Blow might actually be his.
Again, perfect for him. Another unlikable character who makes bad choices and is the villain and the hero at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, there's a consistent theme throughout his filmography.
I just think maybe at this point he didn't quite have it. He didn't have that ability.
Well, I remember reading the Wikipedia article about this, like looking for justification, like looking for an explanation as to why he was doing making the creative choices he was. And there's like a quote from Polanski, and they're saying he was unhappy with him. Oh. Apparently they were excited to work together, but the end result, Polanski was very disappointed. He did not like what Johnny Depp brought to the table.
Yeah, I just don't think he had it yet.
But like you said, they're in Europe. They're surrounded by booze. It's like I would not be surprised if he just took a breather for a year or something.
Take a minute.
He's like, I'm just gonna take a knee on this one, Roman.
Oh, jeez.
I think it'll be okay.
I'm tired today.
I don't feel like doing more than 2 takes.
So we're gonna meet our first person that has the collection.
Yes.
Fargus. We're in Spain at this point. He meets the twins. The twins kind of give him a background about the book, a little bit more information. Again, played by the same guy. Again, smokers, and we had a problem with this. We both noticed this. That this book is very, very rare and worth a lot of money. You can buy a couple of houses probably with this book.
Easily.
And he's very careless with it, but not as careless as the two Spanish twins. The one is smoking, drops ashes on it, and just kind of just dusts it off a little bit. And we're like, this is a crazy expensive book.
Yeah, part of me, because of Kessler's response regarding the smoking, I do feel like the production was aware that it was almost like a running gag. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, we're going to treat these priceless antiquities as just garbage.
But yes, after he meets them, he goes and meets Fargus, who has an estate somewhere in it's Spain still.
I think it's still Spain. Yeah.
He meets him, and he has a very old estate. It's pretty run down,
It's overgrown with like ivy and just foliage.
Yeah, it's just not looking good. And he shows up. He's playing the violin, and I guess he made an appointment with him. Like, hey, I'm going to come by. He's, oh yeah, I remember now. He goes in. There's no furniture in this.
The interior
house.
of this house it's a massive house, but it's practically a mansion. But there's no ornamentation inside.
And referring back to like what I said at the top, I was like, why I chose this movie also. So this is a movie I'm not entirely sure why I like, but I do really like this scene with this.
As do I.
With this collector. It's interesting what you see about this character. Like it's just done really well. You go in, you ask him if he wants a brandy, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll take a brandy. And he has no furniture except he has a table, a small, not even a coffee table, I'd say. It's like a lamp table, just something you'd have next to you in the living room. And it has all of his dishware. It's like a few plates, bowls, probably some silverware. And then he has a nice Hemingway-esque collection of liquor, I do believe.
Quite a few bottles.
He's got some booze. And he's like, handsome glasses. Yeah, they're nice. And then he shows him his book collection. And this is all he has in the house are those few things. And then this book collection, which is ordered. How are they ordered? They're all on the floor, by the way. There's no bookshelf.
I forget exactly how he ordered them. It's probably like alphabetical or date of publication or something along those lines. But yeah, these aren't even displayed on shelves. No. He just has like some carpet or rags laid out on the floor, and all of the books are laid out on the floor, and there are hundreds of them with the spines facing the ceiling. Mm-hmm. So like just planted on the ground like dominoes.
And pretty much his job, like all he does, I'm assuming retired, all he does is drink, plays violin, and clean these books.
Yeah, he says he cleans them every day.
Every day. And
there are hundreds of them.
This is a big collection. And it's not like, oh, I'm just going to run a feather duster over my paperback collection on the shelf. Like, these are antique books, basically, just very old editions. So there's a very certain way to clean them, I'm assuming. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, he starts excitedly showing off all the books in his collection and like just rattling off names and dates, basically, as if like it's like a baseball card collection or like a Super Nintendo game collection in my case. And Johnny Depp is, the way he's acknowledging his comments, you can tell that every single one of these books is worth quite a bit of money. Yeah, and not only that, yes, it's very precious to the owner.
And he mentions in passing, Fargus. He says, "I will never part with this book. This is my most prized piece." Much like Boris Balkan, his prized possession is this book. And after so Johnny Depp is comparing Boris Balkan's book to Fargus's book, and he notices a few things that are different. He's like, well, I don't know. He's trying to authenticate his book, and he's like, well, these are actually a little different, so I really don't know. It could be either one. And he tells him, he's like, I must have that book. And he's like, he's not going to part with it. He's like, okay. And hangs up the phone.
Yeah.
Like, that's the extent of the conversation. And I think he calls him the next day. He's like, I need you to go back out there and see if you can get the book.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's not going to part with it. He's like, he might be more, he might be able to convince him. Who knows? That's kind of what he's saying. It's still ominous.
So around this time, I think, is where the girl starts to become a major component of the story.
She's just kind of popping up at random times.
I think it's when he's leaving Fargus's home for the first time that she
saves him.
Yeah, she saves him.
So there is a character in this movie who I think we see him at the beginning when he's meeting the widow Tefler.
I think so.
He's seen. So he's a tall black gentleman with platinum blonde hair.
He's not tall.
I thought he was kind of tall.
Johnny Depp's just small.
Okay.
I'm serious.
I'm 5'8".
He's actually quite small.
I'm 5'8". Everybody looks taller to me. So you can kind of gather that this guy's working for Tefler, the widow Tefler, and he keeps popping up because he wants the book. Yeah. He's supposed to be getting the book for her. He's about to beat Johnny Depp's ass in the road.
Yeah, a good bit of stunt driving there. In fact, I think they had to put a body double in for Johnny Depp.
You think so?
There are 2 car stunts in this movie that look dangerous as fuck.
Yeah.
Because basically it's like a stop short type situation where the car basically is supposed to go as close to the human being as possible without hitting them. Mm-hmm. And I think Johnny Depp is exiting the estate, and then this car just like swoops in and comes within like inches of clobbering his kneecap. And then this guy, this gentleman steps out of the car and confronts him.
Yeah, and he's gonna beat his ass. And then we have somebody on a motorcycle that just comes by, and he's not getting a good vibe from this person, and he just kind of backs up.
Yeah, they have a little standoff, and they size each other up, and the guy gets back in the car and leaves.
Yeah, and then she just takes off. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, she
pops up at the hotel, right?
She pops up at the hotel. I think they have a drink maybe upstairs or something like that, and I think she gives him a ride the next day.
Mm-hmm. So she wakes him up early in the morning.
Yeah, they go back to Fargus's place, and he knocks on the door, and he's like, he's not answering. He's like, he's not going to, and they're like, why? Like, because he's dead in the fountain.
Yeah.
And how did he die? Was he? It looked like suicide, but I think it was murder, I'm assuming.
It's implied, I think, that the gentleman from the car, Sisqo.
Sisqo, yeah.
It's implied, I think, that he murdered him and then threw him in the pool up front.
Yeah, because he goes for the book, and I think this one...
this one's on fire.
No, that's the one. That's where Baroness Kessler's book is on fire, remember?
I think they're both on fire.
Are they both on fire?
I think so.
So this one he's able to salvage out of the fireplace.
Just the outer, like the outer rim of the pages are burnt.
But are the illustrations taken?
No.
The illustrations are still there?
As far as I remember.
I think that they're missing.
Oh.
I think that was what it was. Is the illustrations were... he compared the illustrations. The illustrations were taken, and he was still trying to get the book, I believe. But he gets the book, and he goes back, and he's looking at it. And now we get kind of a lull in the movie, because nothing really happens until we get to Baroness Kessler. Because I can't think of anything besides smoking and drinking and some more on-location shots.
It's mostly just him having weird interactions with the girl who fails to become a character throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, honestly, you could have just dropped her thread, like, completely. Mm-hmm. She doesn't hardly do anything. I mean, she saves him a couple of times. And she's actually she's the one that keeps Sisqo away from him.
Well, and she does do a lot to keep the plot moving. Mm-hmm. But I feel like you probably could have accomplished that just by making Johnny Depp's character more engaged in the story. Yeah, because he's just kind of being dragged along by the arm by her, and by the occasional phone call from Frank Langella. He doesn't seem to be terribly invested in things until the very end.
Well,
like around the midway point, it turns into basically just an obligation where it's like I can't turn back now because Frank Langella is threatening to kill my ass.
well, she's kind of his bad girlfriend. Like he starts dating her, and she's like, "Oh, you can just scale the wall here, and you can go get the book." And he's like, "I don't know if I can do that."
Yeah,
she goes in and unlocks the door.
She is kind of, but she's like doing this thing where it's like her intentions are never clear throughout the entire thing. So yeah, throughout the entire thing,
she has there's no clear motive. Like I don't know what she's helping him for.
Yeah,
but he just assumes that she's with Balkan.
Yeah,
which is good enough, I guess. She's not.
No,
with Balkan, but I think that's why he goes along with her. He just assumes that she's working with Balkan.
Mm-hmm.
So now, skip. We're gonna go meet the Baroness Kessler, who's an old German lady. Mm-hmm. She is, from what I can gather, a professor at Universität. She's a scholar about the devil. Basically, she says, "I've dedicated my life to him." She's like, "I saw him once when I was a little girl, and ever since then, I've been in love with him."
Yeah, she's very matter of fact about it.
Yeah, she can pinpoint, like, she's like, "No, I have a fascination because I had this weird experience when I was younger, and now I teach people
like,
about
do you
it."
have a problem with that?
And he's wanting to look at her book, and she's like, "Well, mine's authentic, and you're not going to look at my book." And he says something that really pisses her off.
He mentions Balkan, I think.
Oh yeah, she's like, "Fuck that dude!
Yeah.
You're not looking at shit. Oh, you work for him? Like, get out."
Mm-hmm.
So he talks to Langella again, and he's like, I still need you to go back. And he offers her something. Like, he's like, "I'll let you look at..."
So this happens several scenes later. In between this, I think we get a sequence where Sisqo tries to beat his ass and almost succeeds.
Yeah, and then, yes.
And then we get the float.
One of the most useless things in this movie.
So there are a handful of instances of violence in this movie. Just a handful. Yeah. Not very many. No. Man, they're all clumsily executed.
Yes.
Like, every single one of them is just unwieldy and unpleasant to look at.
Yeah.
Like, from a purely aesthetic standpoint, it's like, I don't know if they choreographed this. I feel like they just turned on the camera and said roughhouse. With like Johnny Depp.
Like her martial arts double that's beating his ass. Like,
Yeah, like, there's one shot where they're just like staring directly at each other at like exactly foot length.
Yeah.
And she just awkwardly front kicks him square in the chest, and he doesn't even react. He just falls on his ass.
Yeah,
it's really bad. But yeah, the float that I mentioned refers to her entrance into that scene. So Johnny Depp, there's actually a good suspenseful scene where he exits, I think, the Kessler's office, and he notices Sisqo's like casing him.
Yeah, and
he goes to hide in a cafe, and we get this nice passage of time sequence where we see that he's piling up receipts at the cafe. Like, he has like a whole table full of receipts for coffee and cigarettes, basically.
Oh, it's booze. He's boozing.
Boozing? Okay. So he's been there all day, and Sisqo's just planned it out front. And then at some point, Sisqo isn't there, so he decides to hightail it and run.
The light comes on in the cafe, and he's gone. Yeah,
they flick the lights, and it's like, oh yeah, we got that nice shot of the reflection in the window.
Yeah, where
Johnny Depp's been staring out this window the entire time he's been in there, and when they turn on the interior lights in the cafe, all of a sudden the window he's looking out of only casts his reflection, so he can only see himself, so he can't see outside anymore, which prompts him to try to leave, and he's safe for a couple seconds. Sisqo jumps him as you do. They have a scuffle, and then the float happens where they're roughhousing under a bridge. I'm sure it's a very famous location in Paris. And then the girl, instead of running down the stairs, she just goes from the top of this bridge and just like floats down.
No, she comes from like the 7th stair from getting onto the ground. That's where, like, if you look at the angle that she's coming from, it looks like she's coming from the 7th stair. Like, she went down the stairs, almost there. I'm like, I'm gonna float from the
I think I'll just float the rest of the way. Yeah. It's like, why not just float from the top?
It's really dumb, and
it's very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon-esque, but in that movie it works, especially because it's a Chinese film, and that's part of the culture. We've gone over that, but in this case, it just looks cheap and stupid.
It's cheap and stupid, and also now we know that she's
confirmed for Supernatural at this point. She has eyes that change colors, and she can float.
Up until this point, she's just a weird chick that might have supernatural powers. Now we're like, okay, she does. She absolutely does.
She's one of the X-Mans.
Yeah. So, yeah, she saves him. She gets bopped in the nose, I think, or he gets bopped in the nose.
He accidentally bops her in the nose.
Oh, yeah, he bops her in the nose.
And she gets a nice little nosebleed.
And then they go up and they stay there in the hotel that night. No hanky-panky.
No hanky-panky.
He leaves to go seek the widow Kessler, and this is where he gives her a peace offering. He's just like, hey, I'll let you look at his book or something like that.
Yeah, I think what happens is that's when he makes the photocopies.
Yeah.
And he brings her examples of all the artwork in these books. Of the two versions he's had a chance to view. That's
how he gets her, because he's like, there's I looked at Fargus's book, and like the pictures were off, and she's like, oh, that's interesting. He's like, I can come up and you can take a look at it. So
he basically appeals to her curiosity as a scholar. It's like, you're obsessed with the devil, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I found some discrepancies, and you have an opportunity to authenticate your book right now.
Yeah.
She can't help herself.
Oh, she absolutely cannot help herself. So he goes up. She lets him look at her book, and I really like this scene. She's having a Churchill lunch. She's eating and having some champagne at lunch.
Yeah,
which is very European. I feel like we're having some champagne with our lunch. Yeah, very very Churchill.
Yeah, he waits for the secretary with the skunk haircut to leave.
Because she'll beat some ass.
That is a tough looking gal.
Yeah. So he's looking at the books, and he goes to light a cigarette, and she's like, absolutely not. Are you fucking kidding me? No.
Yeah. I thought that was genuinely funny.
She's like, I'll permit you to look at that. She's like, I will not permit that. I like that scene.
It's a very
does he mutter something under his breath? Or he wants to, definitely.
I don't think he said anything, but yeah, his face did communicate something.
What a drag, ma. So he's looking at the book, and I thought this was kind of a neat shot.
It was, yeah.
We kind of move, the Baroness goes out of frame, and then we start moving towards Johnny Depp, and then you're like, oh no, something's about to happen. Again, he's bopped on the head.
Yeah, we get a first-person perspective shot of someone creeping up behind him.
Is it Gillian Anderson who plays Scully in the X-Files? Her character in the first couple seasons of that, she suffers a lot of head trauma because she is knocked out and kidnapped a couple of times.
Ooh, fan theory. The rest of the show was a delusion.
Might have been, because it goes off the rails in season 5. They started to lose me at the end of season 4. I'm having trouble getting into season 5. But anyway, he gets knocked out. He wakes up, and the place is on, it's smoking. There's a fire happening. And this is a really creepy segment, too. You see the widow... she's in a wheelchair, by the way. We didn't mention she's in a wheelchair.
Electric wheelchair. And she's got one hand.
Yeah, and she has one hand. Her wheelchair is just bumping into the wall, and we have her back turned. And he's like, Baroness, what's going on? There's a fire in there. Oh, and he's just bumping into the wall. He turns her, and she's been clearly strangled. If you've seen The Godfather, you've seen Luca Brasi strangled. It's basically what his face looks like.
Oh yeah, her tongue is quite swollen and hanging out her mouth.
That was one of my favorite scenes from that movie. Was that Luca Brasi taking the knife, and then it's done really well. But you could, I got strangled face.
Yeah,
and it's really creepy. And he goes into where the fire is, and this book is being burnt now.
I think what happens is she goes through the door, and then it opens up into the fire.
Yes. So that was really creepy.
So he turns her around, and then because her chair is set to constantly move forward, because her weight is leaning on the switch, the lever, she speeds out of the room past him and knocks through a couple of doors, and then oh no, there's a fire! All these priceless books are up in flames. I should probably do something.
Real quick, I just mentioned the Luca Brasi being strangled in Godfather 1. When he grabs the book before he leaves.
Yeah, he pulls it from the fire.
He pulls it from the fire, and it's pretty much destroyed. So this is what I'm thinking. I think all the photos were pulled out. All the illustrations were pulled out because Frank Langella at the end has all the illustrations, and the rest of these books are being burnt. This one is it's halfway burnt across. There's no getting it.
Yeah.
Luca Brasi being strangled in Godfather, when Johnny Depp storms out of here, just runs out, he bumps into the secretary who has a bag full of oranges. Which was a motif in The Godfather.
Yep.
Coppola used an orange every time that something bad was about to happen on screen. So that might have actually been a nod there, because we have the strangle face and the oranges, both from Godfather.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I'm just saying.
I mean, they're almost contemporaries.
What's the point of having oranges fall out of a bag? There's no reason. He could have just stormed past her.
Yeah, I mean, it is telegraphed a little earlier, because the secretary is shown peeling an orange the first time we see her, but it's a nice callback. Yeah. I like that.
Tinfoil hat.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
All right, I like it. That was fun. I just realized that. All right, so now Johnny Depp is flustered.
A little bit.
And this is where I'm like doing my Dennis Farina and Snatch, like flying back to New York now. We gotta get the fuck out of here, man, because she definitely saw him leave, and she's like, he strangled her and set the place on fire. Like he might be in some real trouble now, but he washes his hands, he just washes his hands, and then he takes off to do. No, where do we go from here?
So this is where I start to get things kind of mixed up, like the order of scenes here, because I know at one point he hides one of the books in his apartment, or his hotel room, behind the mini fridge. So
yes, while he's doing this, he goes back to his apartment. It's been ransacked. The book has been taken.
So he took photocopies to Kessler, but he left the actual book in his hotel.
He left the book in the hotel
behind the mini fridge.
And it's been taken, and the girl comes back and he's like, where the fuck did you take it? She's like, why would I take it and then come back here? Like, I didn't take it. There's no reason for me to. And he's like, okay, that's good enough for me. So Balkan calls.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we're running into some issues. Tefler, the widow Tefler's in town, because he puts it together. He's like, that blonde dude is working for the Tefler widow.
He asks the concierge at the hotel to help him track the Tefler lady down.
Yes.
Because Sisqo is pretty easy to pick out of a crowd, so he says, if you can't find her, tell somebody to keep an eye out for Sisqo.
Yeah, Sisqo's here. So he's on the phone with Frank Langella, and he's just like, she took the book, and he's like, what?
Yeah, his reaction's pretty great.
He's like, do you realize? He's like, you have to get that back. He's like, do you know how far I was willing to go to check on this? Now that you've lost my property, what do you think I'm going to do to you? So he knows he means business. He's like, I get the book back. He takes a cab over to, they find out what hotel she's staying at, and the widow Tefler, and they creep up on her, find her, and now she's taking off. Now this is where the girl steals a red car. This is another red red thing.
Yeah.
Steals the car. He's like, well, this isn't very conspicuous. She's like, it's fast though.
So they go on this very leisurely pursuit where they're just kind of tailing the Lady Tefler.
Stolen from a Middle Eastern gentleman, because they're coming up on their car. He's like, you're going too fast, you're going to give us away. She's like, maybe not.
Yeah. He has like Saudi headgear basically, and she puts it on in the driver's seat, and to make them look less conspicuous, and she pulls ahead of them.
Why did she pull ahead of them? That was the dumbest thing.
Johnny Depp is not a secret agent in this movie. He's a book dealer.
Yeah, she's driving,
but he's anxious, and he tells her they're gonna notice if we hang back here for too long. Yeah. And she's like, whatever, Johnny.
Well, he just had a very he probably hasn't been drinking very much that day, and he just had a very traumatic experience.
Yeah, they've been on the road the whole time, so he's probably just like rattled.
He's going through withdrawals. He's rattled from the widow.
Yeah, he's got the cold sweats and everything
from the Baroness being strangled, so he's a little nervous. So they're following. They go in front, and like they just took that exit, and then she fucking pulls the parking brake, goes behind them, and like that's not more like you would hear that like what was that?
Hear some French cursing or something.
Yeah. And then this semi driver who's just being a dick for no reason is just like going back and forth on the exit, gives them the finger when they honk the horn, and then they're at two-way. Like,
they come to a crossroads.
Like, which way do we go? And she's like, just pick. And he's like, I don't know. She's like, we're gonna go this way. Guess what? It's the right way to go.
Well, there's a cute little moment in there, because she does pick the correct direction, but the way they deduce that it is in fact the correct direction is she sees a street sign.
No, that's when they.
Oh yeah, they do take a long road for a while, and then they come to a crossroads, and she asks him, "What's the Lady Tefler's widow's name? What's her widow's name?" and I forget what it is, but one of the street signs is that name.
She said, "What's her maiden name?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, it's blah blah blah." She's like, "Bam." The sign is saying that their estate is this way.
Yeah.
And it's an eyes wide shut estate.
Oh, yeah, there's candles all over the place and robes.
All the way down. Now, somebody had mentioned at this point, like, I think it was the Baroness. She's just like...
she gets a big exposition dump that
Yeah.
comes in handy for the climax.
She's like, she just wants the book because she likes to have these weird orgies and get fucked. And we had a philosophy of religion class, and our professor brought in a woman who was Wiccan, and she was very critical of what she liked to call fluffy bunny witches, which are just young people who are like 18, 19 that just like oh yeah, I'm a witch. Like you're just like you're a poser basically. She was calling out posers.
Yeah.
And that's what she's basically calling her. It's like she does not care about the devil. She just thinks this is all like just some fun thing that she can do.
This is where we learn that there's a secret society. It's some sort of serpent society that we see when the Lady Tefler is with Johnny Depp, that she has a serpent tattoo.
Yeah.
So it's apparently like a high society social club of some sort that happens to involve devil worship. And the Lady Kessler was formerly part of this organization. However, she dropped out because they're not terribly interested in the real deal Satanism. Mm-hmm. They're more into, fucking and wearing fanciful robes.
It's interesting. Eyes Wide Shut came out in '99, I believe, and this came out in 2000.
I don't know when Eyes Wide Shut was shot.
98-ish, but if it was out...
It looks like it's much older.
Oh, it might be.
Like, it looks like it was shot 5 years prior or something, but that could just be the style or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as extensive in its exploration of the mansion.
Yeah.
But it's important to note that before they left, Johnny Depp told Frank Langella, he's like, he sends a fax. He's like, it's the Tefler woman.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know who did it. Very important because they scale the wall into this mansion. He sees the widow Tefler and he has green eyes. Go get the book. The girl. He's like, go get the book. And then Sisqo just walks in and like, fuck.
Sisqo walks in with a handgun.
He's like, God damn it. She's like, take him downstairs in the dungeon and shoot them. Like, get it over with. And then
Johnny Depp with the mother of all arm drags. Like, they're on a staircase and Johnny Depp flips Green Eyes the high sign and he...
Pull up your socks. Yeah.
He reaches over his shoulder and he grabs Sisqo's arm and he just... judo hip tosses him down the stairs.
Doesn't he beat him with a rock or something?
Oh, yeah, he fucks him good. Like.
So now they're Johnny.
She mentions like, "Oh, I didn't know you had it in you."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, neither did I."
Neither did I.
Apparently, my stunt double's very talented though.
Well, that dude's been pissing him off for a few days now. He had it coming.
And Sisqo did get some good shots in on him, so it's like he's got some vengeance in his blood at the moment.
He's royally pissed. So Johnny Depp's like, all right, I'm going to put on this hood. I'm going to go into the crowd and try to go get the book, basically. And he's like, you hang back because you're weird. And I'll let you down there.
You're weird. You'll stand out. Among this group of weirdos.
She's like, okay, whatever. Like, I'll be your backup. And so she's talking and she's speaking from the book and fucking dad comes home.
That is one of the greatest
so good.
It's so great.
He comes in. What is he saying to her? He's talking shit, but it's like...
he is talking trash. And
he like,
kicks the doors down.
He's like, you fucking... He's got his jacket off. Like, his sleeves are rolled up. He's ready to fucking
This is a fantastic scene. It's basically just like judgmental father walks in on an unwarranted teenage party at his home.
He's about to beat... Like, he's a foot taller than everybody in this crowd, and he's going to beat ass.
Oh.
Like, you can just see he is storming. Get the fuck out of his way.
And not a single person gets in his way.
He's basically telling them, like, you fucking losers. Like, this has nothing to do with orgies and shit. This is an important book about summoning the devil, and you guys are fucking idiots.
Yeah, he's like, you bunch of clowns in your fucking robes.
You fucking
You
loser.
don't know nothing about the devil.
Pretty much, yeah. And he like pushes her aside and takes the book. She jumps on his back and then he tried to strangle her at this point. And Johnny Depp's like, no, fuck that. You can't do that. So he hits him. Yeah. Langella, being a fucking fullback, just is like, get the fuck out.
Yeah, he Terminators him.
Yeah,
he Terminators his way through this whole room. There's again, every instance of violence in this movie is really awkward.
I actually...
The Lady Tefler making her exit was very good.
I thought it was
good. That was
good.
excellent.
because she's doing a very good job of selling it, and
It's good acting.
very good acting. And Langella's face when he's doing it, it's like he's getting a little bit of joy out of it, but at the same time, he's not fucking around.
Well,
like,
I mean, the way he made his entrance into the room, his patience has just gone out the window.
Think about how quickly he got. Like, I think he was probably in Europe, but think about how quickly he got there.
No, he makes clear that he's in Europe. Because Johnny Depp is suspicious that he's like, I feel like somebody's looking over my shoulder the whole time. And he does mention offhand that, like, I'm in town.
I'm in town.
Yeah, because when he asks for his book back, he's like, oh, just bring it to the hotel.
I'll give you the rest of your money and come to the hotel.
He's like, yeah, I'll give you your money.
This is how quickly he moves. Think about this. So he sends a
very large man moving very fast.
He sends a 2,000 fax, a year 2000 fax to him at another hotel. They jump in the car and follow them. He shows up 15 minutes later. Like, that's how quickly he's there. Like, he's not fucking around.
And I kind of like that he shows up with, like, no goons.
Oh, no
He
goons.
just shows up in person. He's like, fuck it, I'll do it myself.
And he gets a boo on them after he kills the fuck out of...
he chokes her with her own necklace.
It
has, like, a pentagram, and, like, the star is pointing right into her throat.
Yeah.
And he's just yanking on it.
Yeah.
And, she dies. He takes the book, and, everybody's freaked out. And I love that there's, like, interspersed in the crowd, it's mostly, like, waspy-looking people.
Yeah.
But then there's also, like, nubile young females that are completely naked under their robes.
Yeah. Because when the one's leaving, she takes it off.
So, like, when everyone's leaving, there's just, like, random naked, like, young ladies running out that you can tell that it's, like... Yeah, sounds like Kessler and Frank Langella were both pretty accurate in their analysis of how this club functions in the modern age. But yeah, he gets a boo in on them where everybody's just like, holy shit, he just strangled that chick. And then he goes, boo! And everybody runs out of the room, and he's just like, I'm just going to dust myself off and head out to the car. Fuck y'all.
He just walked in there so confident and got shit done. I mean, that's why he's the status that he's at, man.
I would love to see, like, that scene re-edited with, like, a killer music cue or something. Black and black! Or something like that.
Oh, man, that would be a pretty good one. Or, like, some Blade, almost like a Blade-esque. So yeah, we get to now.
Oh, we get another float in there, by the way.
Does she float again?
She floats again this time from the second, like the banister.
He gets in the car. Does he go? He gets in the car. Does she get in? Or she just hands him his stuff. Does he let her in?
He doesn't let her in.
He doesn't let her in. So now
So Johnny Depp takes off, and she's like, "Well, that's the end of that story." And Johnny Depp's like, "No, I have to know.
I have to know."
And he takes off after Frank Langella.
Takes off after him. He at one point. Does the car die? Because he hitchhikes for a little bit. Like, he gets into the town. She does show up because...
I think he loses him. He loses him, and then he ends up parking at... He goes to, like, a restaurant. Like, a little mom-and-pop kind of restaurant. And very friendly French people help him out because he has an image, a postcard, that he found in Kessler's book.
Yes.
That has a mocking message from Balkan in it.
Yes, it's also, I noted this at the beginning, there is a portrait behind Balkan when we're first introduced to him in the 13 Ghosts cage. That building at the very end is in his library.
So what this postcard is it's a photo of a castle of some sort. And on the back of the postcard, there's like a mocking message addressed to Kessler saying, like, I found it first or something. Mm-hmm. So apparently this location is of some import.
It's significant, yes.
So Johnny Depp, I think he still actually has this card.
Yeah.
And he shows, like, one of the waitstaff at the restaurant the photo, and they super friendly French people, they, like, pull up like a road guide and like say, oh, this is where that is.
Well, then when he finds the town, he talks to that baker through the hole. And he's like, hey, where's this at? And he's like, oh yeah, it's over here. Yeah. I think that restaurant, I saw the people that work there, and I'm like, I think this is legit. Like, it was an actual like cafe, and I think that's the people that actually work there.
I'm sure.
Which, if that's the case, I mean, that's really interesting. I kind of want to look up the desk clerk 1, desk clerk 2, manager, see if they're like even actors, or if they're like, no, they just work there.
Yeah, I'm sure they were just people that were there, because they're not turning in performances.
There's a guy that shows up. I think he's in Casino. He's in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He's in Vegas Vacation, any kind of Vegas movie. I think he's actually a blackjack dealer, and I noticed him in several movies. I don't think he's actually an actor.
That's kind of a skill to handle cards in that fashion.
I mean, he's just like, you only see him doing it in Vegas Vacation, where he's playing. He's like just wiping the floor with him, basically. It's not.
I know the guy you're talking about, actually.
Yeah, just get like a pudgy, like just kind of, yeah.
He has a good face for it.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate you.
Yeah, you hate him so much.
It's like, you did that on purpose. It had nothing to do with chance.
That's when he goes to it's the off-brand casino where he's like, guess a number, and he's just staring at the guy. He's like, 6, 8. But I lost. I love that.
That was great.
I love that. So now he's going to this place, and he comes up on the castle. I think he has a revolver in his jacket from when they took it from the dude.
Yeah.
Homegirl took it from the dude and put it in the jacket.
Yeah, they took it from Sisqo.
So he goes down there, and he's got the gun pointed at Langella, and Langella's like, go for it.
Really good lead into that sequence is Langella is alone.
Yes.
Again, this is a man who doesn't have henchmen.
Or friends.
Or friends. So he has all the pages of I can't remember this exact name for this book. I think it's like the Maledictatum or something.
Something like that.
It's Malice something or other. But anyway, he has all the pages, all the ones initialed by LCF.
Yes. And there are 10 pages. 10 illustrations.
9.
I think it's 10.
Oh, I thought the 9 referred to the 9 gates.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I believe there is a 10th page. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, he has all the pages, all the artwork laid out in front of him, and he's performing some sort of ritual that's supposed to give you an audience with the devil. Johnny Depp is discovered coming down the stairs of like the main like turret of this castle or whatever, and when he does pull out the pistol, I'm not sure how much of it was choreographed or just Johnny Depp being clumsy. But he like has to wrestle it out of his coat pocket, and it's so sloppy that it really works because he's a book guy. He's not an action hero. No. And I think Frank Langella even comments on it, where he's like, "I thought you would have been smoother." He's like, "Oh, I thought you would have been smoother." Yeah.
The book is called "The 9 Gates of the Kingdom of Shadows." That's the name of the book.
Sounds like a good children's book that I would read to my kids before bed.
No. So. Basically, Frank Langella, they get into a scuffle, and he's just like overpowering him easily because he's a giant. Like,
he's a big dude.
Like, I just pulled this up. I was trying to see if it was 9 pages or 10. Just look at Langella compared to Johnny Depp in this photo. Like,
Johnny
towers over
the top of Johnny Depp's head is at his nose.
At his nose, and then you can see how much wider he is than him.
He's a thick boy.
He's a thick sumbitch.
He has not missed any meals.
I love his. I'm looking at the pictures now. Like, I love his glasses in this movie.
They both have snazzy glasses.
I appreciate it.
Johnny Depp loses his pair. He gets a new pair that's less fun in the second half of the movie because they get broken by Sisqo, I think.
But yeah, so now we get a little bit of a Jumanji problem where he is stuck halfway through the floor.
Yeah, we get this scene where they're having a scuffle and Frank Langella like Mortal Kombat's him into or Battletoads him into the floorboards.
Yeah. Actually, I think you're right. There are 9 pages, but so he's summoning the devil now. He's just like, you're gonna watch as I summon the devil.
Yeah, and we get this neat shot from perspective. It's a very low angle because it's supposed to be from Johnny Depp's
perspective. Yeah,
perspective smashed into the ground
as if he couldn't seem any more big.
So
he does gasoline around him.
Yeah, he creates a ring of gasoline,
and he's having his I feel tingly, and I'm like, I feel so much power, and he's trying to demonstrate to Johnny Depp. He's like, look, nothing can hurt me. He puts his hand in the fire. He's like, I feel nothing. Mm-hmm. And like, fucking anybody can do that.
If you're quick about it, anyway.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not even convinced by it. And Johnny Depp is like, oh, really? He's like, that's not that impressive. And he's like, oh, okay. And Frank Langella's character takes the gasoline, pours it over himself, and catches on fire. He's like, see, I'm fine. Oh, fuck!
He's fine for like a good 10 seconds.
Yeah, and then he realizes, oh shit, like, I'm not fine. Like,
I am on fire.
He is on fire.
Yeah, he is completely and totally immolated.
And Johnny Depp falls down out of it, and I think he's still kind of burning, and Johnny Depp puts him out of his misery as he's screaming and shoots him and kills him, which was very nice of him.
Yeah.
So it's been a weird day for him. He's killed somebody. He's watched the guy he killed kill somebody. There was almost an orgy. Lots been going on.
He's like, dang, I kind of wanted to stick around for that.
Grand Theft Auto, theft, they stole the book, murder.
Assault, murder.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff in one day. And now he leaves the castle as it's burning.
I think he grabs the pages.
He grabs the pages off the table, and all we have left pretty much is, like, I think, one copy of the book and then the pages. So Johnny Depp leaves, and he goes somewhere. I know he goes back to that rare bookstore, but
something happens before that.
What? No. That's not until late. Oh, is that what happened? Oh, yeah. You're right.
The one scene I remember from this movie the first time I saw it.
Yeah. It's a very memorable scene. He hooks up with the girl in green, and I called her a succubus because this is what a succubus demon does.
So there's a castle burning right behind them. They give each other like the high sign, or just give each other a look.
He goes to light a cigarette. He goes to put a cigarette in his mouth, and then it looks like he's lighting it, but it's actually her hand. He's like, "What the fuck?" And she's just like, "We're gonna do this now."
Yeah, and so during Frank Langella's sequence where he's setting himself on fire, when he's doing that whole ritual, the choir is just going fucking nuts.
Yeah, it's going off.
Nuts.
Yeah, it's going nuts.
It's effective, but holy shit, it is over the top and then some.
Yeah.
Frank Langella's performance in that sequence is unbelievable.
He's great. He's great in this movie.
No, he's great. But yeah, the castle's on fire, and then we transition, I think, from her lighting his cigarette, and then they're just barebacking it on the grass in front of the burning castle.
He has sex 2 times, both times with his clothes on. That's weird.
Yeah, and it seems like the ladies are doing all the work.
Yeah.
He's kind of lazy about it. Again, all the booze and cigarettes, it's got to do something to you.
Johnny Depp in the 2000s, I don't try at all. I don't have to try.
It just comes to me.
I try, but it doesn't work.
It's better if I don't.
It's better if I just don't. It works out better.
She's riding him, and his expression's kind of funny because you can tell he's a little worried.
Oh, he's worried, but he's like, fuck yeah.
He's like, this is awesome. Enjoyable, but this is also fucking terrifying.
So they have a nice one-night stand out in the field.
Her face is transforming into many different ladies' faces the whole time they're doing it.
Her eyes are glowing again.
Her eyes are glowing, and her face is turning into other people's faces. This is some sleepwalker shit, if you've ever seen Sleepwalkers.
She's fine.
And yeah.
I think that I might have a thing for French ladies.
She's quite French.
She's very French, but like I have a huge crush on Marion Cotillard.
Oh,
very much.
Understandably so.
Very, very French. This lady's name is Emmanuelle Seiner.
That's quite French.
Yeah, very, very French. Yeah, she's a fox.
Even when her face is transforming into other people.
Yes, but then they have so she doesn't have a walk of shame because they're like 100 miles away from their hotel.
I think they go to a gas station together.
And she leaves She leaves as he goes in to get
Snickers bars,
Snickers or whatever they call it wherever they're at. And
Royale with cheese.
She leaves, and there's a little note underneath the windshield wiper, and I can't remember what it was. What was it under there? But it leads him back to those 2 dudes.
Yeah.
The 2 twins, and he goes back to this bookstore, and it looks like it's being cleaned, and it's not the same 2 guys. It's 2 guys.
Well, it's been cleaned out.
It's been cleaned out.
It's completely empty, and the 2 guys there are actually like tearing down the furniture. Like they're taking this gigantic piece of furniture off the wall.
Huge armoire. Yeah. It looks like a huge armoire that's attached to the wall, and these guys don't speak any English. No. And he's just like, do you guys speak English? Like, no. And they go back to what they're doing. So he just kind of looks around, and this pissed me off when I was watching it. Because it's a CGI paper falling off this armoire as it's being taken down. I'm like, you couldn't just have them just...
It's like the feather in Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
It's like you couldn't have gotten it to fall exactly right, and it would have taken an exorbitant amount of time to do that, to push that piece of furniture down that many times. Like,
So
it's better to just do it that way and send everyone home on time.
there are 9 illustrations that have been taken that with the LCF on it.
Yes.
It's supposed to be illustrated by the devil. But this is the 10th one. And this has the girl he just banged on.
And like
riding
a
a dragon.
multi-headed serpent or dragon or something in front of the castle that they just banged at.
Or no, this was actually... that's what it was. I'm sorry. It is 9 illustrations. One of them was a forgery.
Oh.
That's what it was. And this is the original.
Which is why Frank Langella didn't get his audience with the Debo.
Yes. And that's exactly why. And that's what she says. It's a forgery. She's like, that's what it was. It was the one Devil Girl. She's like, this is a forgery.
Yeah.
These guys have the main one. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. We see Johnny Depp going back to that castle.
And then a blazing light comes out of the entrance of it, and it's implied, I guess, that he met the devil.
Yeah. Worked out for him in the end.
In a manner of speaking, I guess.
Yeah. And that's the movie. I rewatched this a couple weeks ago in preparation for this, just to have it fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I watched it about a week ago.
I still really enjoyed it. It's long. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's a little long, but I still really enjoyed it. Again, I'm not entirely sure why I enjoy watching it. I think it might just be how it's shot. It's a lot of on location and like cute little cafes, and the smoking really got me.
I think the locations and the editing style do it a lot of favors, because the locations, as an American who hasn't really traveled much, it is nice to look at.
Yeah,
because it's distinctly foreign.
Very much.
They do a good job of, like you said, like incorporating like the local flavor into things, like making it feel like you're in a different place.
It
like
feels
exotic.
authentic.
It feels exotic. It feels different. It feels alluring. And also the editing style is very old-fashioned. There's not a lot of rapid-fire editing, not a lot of high-energy camera movement. It's very breezy. It's very relaxed. It has that kind of feel where it's almost hypnotic, where it's never in a hurry to get anywhere until the very end.
And even then, like, I honestly, like, when I go back to rewatch, I'm like, I kind of just don't give a shit now. Like,
yeah, and even the way the characters get from point A to point B. There's not a lot of car travel. There's like either they're on a train or they're walking or they're taking a cab. Nobody's in a hurry.
No. And I would say like this is a mystery, so even like I know the ending, but it's still kind of fun going along for the ride. Like him piecing this all together, like noticing the discrepancies. Again, like you said, 5 minutes. Like,
that's my biggest issue with the movie, other than Johnny Depp's performance, is that the mystery is too thin. Like I would have loved to have seen some modern editing techniques put into those scenes of detective work, of him poring over the details of each and every page of these books, because these are like 300-page volumes. Like going through all of these pages with a fine-tooth comb would be a laborious process that I feel like it's too convenient to have just he latches on to the one detail. It's like, oh, this LCF doesn't match the other things.
I'll actually go back to Fargus. Fargus takes 2 pages from the books, and he's like, look, you can even see the prints are the exact same. Just the little discrepancy right here is the exact same in the next book.
That's what I wanted more of.
But I think that was to make you believe that these books are the same. And he really does figure it out in like 2 days. Like it doesn't take him very long to actually get it. And if he wasn't drinking, he'd probably get it quicker. But if you do think about like where we get to with the books, I'm like, yeah, this is an appropriate amount of time for him to figure this out, because he has to go to different days to different places. You could have definitely trimmed this down by maybe, like you said, you could cut out the girl.
She's very important. I just didn't think she was incorporated very well. It's clear that there's some foggy elements to the script that she was meant to mean more than she actually contributed. But yeah, stuff like Fargus, like those little details in how books are printed and how books are made. Like I would have loved details like that. I love procedurals. Like there's a Japanese director that made a movie called A Taxing Woman. It's about tax auditing.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Made it interesting as fuck.
Well,
I think the same guy did a movie called The Funeral. It's about funeral services.
I think there's
and he made it interesting as fuck. I would have really loved to have seen something like that, where it's like obsessing over the details of like bookbinding and like small flaws and discrepancies that appear in print quality and things like that. But I would have really loved to have had like a cross-cut montage of Johnny Depp just like tearing his hair out, like not even knowing what he's looking for, like being pissed the fuck off and being like, I don't know what this fucking guy wants from me, but I have to do this, otherwise something bad's gonna happen to me, or I won't get paid. And if and my friend died, by the way.
It would have been, if you think about it too, it would have been interesting if like the whole time they were forgeries and like you incorporate the twins into it, like they were a big part of it. Like no, we know what this is gonna do, and we wanted to protect that, and that's why we.
But they saved it instead for a big reveal at the end that felt really flat.
Yeah, it's definitely flat. I'm not gonna defend that at all.
Those guys, they like I said, like you said, they were the same actor shot via split screen. Mm-hmm. You don't do that without having a good reason. And there might have been more to them. I think so. That reeks of like cutting room floor or something. Because even the way that shot, even the way those scenes are like bookended. As soon as he leaves there, we get some like scaffolding that collapses that happens for no real reason. Well, it's kind of a shocking moment, but we don't even get an explanation as to how it happened or why.
I actually really like that scene with the twins. Because there's something chilling about the way they talk to him. I don't know what it is. Just the way they're kind of just like, oh, you don't know what that means? Oh, he doesn't know what that means. Okay. I don't know. I like that exchange.
I like them too, but they're sorely missed throughout the entire movie. It would have been nice to have had one more scene with them.
Mm-hmm. So all in all, what did you think about it? Was it okay?
It was okay. I wouldn't call it a great movie by any means, but I'm not disappointed that I watched it or anything.
It's very watchable.
It's very watchable. Yeah. I'll give it that.
And I still find it enjoyable. I'll probably watch it again here in a couple of years.
Frank Langella is
great.
The MVP by far.
Well, think about it. He's not really in the movie very much. Mm-hmm. He's on the phone.
He's mostly on the phone, and it's funny because I think it was a good example of casting because he has a very distinct voice, and if you're going to have a character who's represented mostly by audio only,
that's a great person.
It's important to have that.
Yeah,
it's important to have a character an actor that can just do vocal performance alone and still sell the strength of this character.
Very much, he did a very good job.
Oh yeah, the pause he has when Johnny Depp is telling him they lost the book. It's like perfect because like right before that he's like, oh okay, well you can bring the book back and I'll give you your check. Yeah, and then he's like, so about that, and just there's just this the loudest silence you'll ever hear.
he lets it sink in. Yeah. Like he lets Johnny Depp realize like, oh, you've really fucked up.
Like, now let me tell you something, Johnny. It's like, now you listen, Johnny.
No, I'm gonna dad out here in about 15 minutes.
It's like, do you hear this? This is me rolling up my sleeves and going out to the Chevy. I need to stop for gas on the way, but I assure you, there will be a spanking.
I have a cottage about 50 miles from here. And you're gonna be a lamp in it if you don't get me that book back.
That book back.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about it. I still recommend it if you haven't seen it, and if you haven't seen it in a long time, I say give it a rewatch. I still think it's nice to look at.
Yeah, no, definitely worth a watch, especially if you just want to see the European scenery, because you get a pretty nice tour of Spain and France.
Another thing that we try to do wrapping up this is I try to, whenever we're discussing something, try to find out what I want Trevor to watch next. And we've done an episode, I don't know if we've dropped it yet, on Versus, 2000, independent Japanese film about zombies. Which made me think of, like, Trevor needs to see The Evil Dead, so I know that that's going to be the next movie where Trevor is going to be catching up on cinema. Absolutely. And we might actually be doing a little bit of a comparison to the remake, just because I really like the remake.
I haven't seen either, so it would probably be a good opportunity to just tackle both at the same time.
Probably going to watch The Evil Dead tonight. I'm probably going to just knock that out. Probably both of them. I don't know. Might just do
Why
both.
Not? Let's go nuts.
But was there anything in here that made you think of a movie that I needed to catch up on? I don't know. I that's what I try to pull from. What did I think of that? You know what? This is what you liked about it. Have you seen this movie? Maybe you should watch it.
I'm not going to say it's officially going to be an episode just yet, but there's a Japanese movie called The World of Kanako.
Okay.
That I can't call it a favorite of mine. In fact, I remember almost nothing about it other than it is intensely skillful and artful filmmaking. It's unlike almost anything else you'll ever see. It's very adventurous, very anarchic in the way it's presented, very grungy. But it's another one of those man-obsessed stories where it's a father looking for his daughter, but not in the conventional sense.
Well, that sounds interesting.
So it's not Taken. It's there's that movie right now that's in theaters, the John Cho movie, Searching.
I don't know that one.
It's about John Cho. The entire movie is shot from a browser window.
Gotcha.
And it's John Cho working backwards through his daughter's social media accounts and trying to find her. It's supposed to be very good.
Really?
Very good.
Well, maybe we'll cover it here in like 3 or 4 years.
But World of Kaneko is kind of... I haven't seen Searching, but it's a kind of a similar concept where it's like... It begins as a father's search for his daughter, and then it turns into like, what the fuck was my daughter doing?
That's interesting. Like My General's Daughter? Oh god, The General's Daughter.
No, it's not like that, but it's like
it's so bad.
It's especially interesting because it takes place in metropolitan Japan, where it's like
Oh, on location?
It's a Japanese movie.
Right.
So it's what typically on the outside appears to be a very clean and inviting environment. All of a sudden it's like, this is dirty as fuck. Like,
gotcha.
This is not a place that people should live in.
Interesting. Well, I'm sold. It sounds like a fun
maybe
one.
we'll watch that. I'm gonna have to rewatch it as well because, like I said, I remember nothing about it. I bought it on a whim.
You should probably give it a view.
And
give it a view before I.
I think Yakusho, I think his name, Koji Yakusho, I think his name, main character from 13 Assassins.
Oh, I like that guy.
Yeah, he's the lead.
Nice. All right.
So yeah, maybe we'll do that one. But
Cool.
I'll have to rewatch it before, though, because it might be just trash and I'm just misremembering it.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you all for helping us to catch up on cinema.